All right, so we're up and running. So good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tom Leahy. If you don't know, we're Candace Suarez and I run a company called Optimum Ed. We are higher education consultants or advisors, and we're all about helping young folks figure out direction and create the academic path to achieve their goals. And so for us, um, let me share my screen real quick, and probably a picture's worth 1,000 words. So let me. So for us, the process is multifaceted. And you may not think about it this way, but I think it's important that at this point, as students start to become rising juniors and juniors. It's that time where we start thinking about college and what's coming next. And so that's why we wanted to do the assessment at this point in time, so they have this information as they go into the summer months and into the fall. And we'll review all this with them again this fall. But this kind of describes for you what we see as the process of preparing for and applying to college. So there's three pieces to that: the admissions piece, the marketing piece, and a financial aid or the paying piece, if you would. And so they kind of operate together a lot of cases, but we start the process up in the upper left-hand corner, the assessment. And the point, again, to the career and academic assessment is, it's our philosophy that this whole exercise of going to college, spending buckets of money on education needs to have a return on that investment, return on investment that the student spends in terms of time and energy, and the money the mom and dad spend sending their student off to whatever college they end up at. And that return on investment is not the degree or the college major that the student earns per se. It's the job and career that degree, that college major delivers. So we take a very practical approach to this process of higher education. Not that there isn't value to education, there is, but it costs too much today to send our child off to college so they find themselves, right? So we need to find them before we send them off, so that we can be more efficient in that process, if you would. And so that's what we're all about. And it starts by identifying direction. What should we be? What's that first job and career look like? What makes sense? And if we can figure that out, maybe we won't always hit the bullseye, but we can get very close. Then we can translate that easily into academic path and what college majors that we need to have available to us when we go to college. So that begins then the college search process, knowing what majors we need available. Then we can use that as part of the filtering process, along with cultural requirements, program requirements, and other things that we, campus needs, wants and needs of the student in the college campus, and financial considerations and those sorts of things, help us then to create that target list of schools. And at the same time, we're creating, and developing a high school resume, which is all about those things that you do outside of class, extracurricular activities, award recognition, all those things, work, whatever it might be. And that is a critical part of the application. And we like to use it as a marketing tool as well. That's why we want to have it ready, say spring of the junior year, so we can share it with colleges, either through email or by dropping a copy at the admissions office when we go to visit, and that sort of thing. So we actually develop and help the student develop a resume. And that information is also used come application time in the activities portion of the application. So instead of having to flail around and try to remember what we've done and all that, we're filling out the application, it's all right there in front of us. It makes things much more efficient. And you hear me use the word efficient a lot, because that's what we're all about too, in terms of making this as stressful and as enjoyable a process as possible for the family and the student. And it's because we do prior planning and we manage the process that we're able to deliver that. All right. So then, of course, the financial aid piece too. We can help the family determine, whether there's going to be need-based assistance or not, that sort of thing. So those are conversations that we can have offline. Most of what we do is delivered in class in small groups there at the school. We'll work with juniors in the spring, and then in the fall we are there quite often with the seniors, because that's when everything's happening. Applications are being submitted and things. And you think about it just for planning purposes in your mind, consider the fact that early action dates for some schools are as early as October 15th. So, you hit senior year and you're immediately being faced with perhaps having to submit applications if you want to use that as a competitive edge in the process. And so, we talk about those strategies as well with the students when we're there in the school. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're about and what we do. And again, like I said, it all starts with the assessment, the career and academic assessment. I sent a link to all the students a few days ago that has the link to the registration page where they can go in, register, and have access to the assessment that they can complete online at their leisure. Maybe I shouldn't say leisure when they complete it, when they have time. It should take about an hour to complete, and then when they submit it, we get the results. We download the reports, and we will email them to the students and to the school. We'll have access to them as well. And next fall, when they become juniors and we're back in the school, they'll be put on an admissions management platform, which we'll discuss further come fall, so that they'll understand how to use that tool as well. So the other thing we do is leverage technology heavily at OptumEd. Again, it helps make things more efficient. All right, so let's talk about the assessment. That's what we're here for tonight. So I want to start by giving you sort of an overview of what we're doing. So the assessment looks at three things. Looks at thinking style. You all are seeing this on the screen, I hope, right? Everybody, yes? Okay. 3 circles. Okay, good. All right. Thinking style. And that's cognitive ability, if you would, maybe. It's more than that. What we're measuring is how one learns and processes information. It's about integrating into the workplace. And there's a math piece to that, and there's a verbal piece to that. And skill, and then reasoning in both. So there's 4 pieces that come together to create that learning index overall. Then we look at 9 behaviors, make up personality. And then we identify top 3 interests out of 6 interest categories that are built into the assessment. We identify the top 3 drivers in terms of passion, if you would. Those come together as visually demonstrated here, where they overlap. That's the bullseye. That's the profile of the student. And the idea is that the assessment then delivers a list of jobs that are appropriate for that profile based upon what people with a similar profile are actually doing. So it's a very practical approach. So when I say students should be a fish hatchery manager, it's because fish hatchery managers have a similar profile. Okay, you get the idea. So and then we can also look at the future of those jobs, the viability of those jobs. We'll get into that in a little bit. I'll show you how we connect and do that research. All right. But anyway, this is, basically how it's built. All right. Why am I showing you the bell curve? Okay. Because we're dealing with statistical information. All right. Student is being measured against the population as a whole. So if you remember from math class, you've heard that expression, the 95% of the population falls within 2 standard deviations of the mean. That means that most of us are all alike, right? Most of us fall within the large part of the bell curve. So when we look at the results, you're going to see them on a scale of 1 to 10 for thinking style and for behaviors. All right, so we're going to see very few 1s and 2s or 9s and 10s. Okay, those outliers. Most people fall within the larger part of the bell curve. That's important to remember, especially when we look at things like learning index. Okay, because if you score a 5, that doesn't mean 50% and oh my gosh, I'm stupid. No, it means you're like everybody else. Okay, that's why it's important to keep that bell curve in mind. And when we talk about behaviors, right? A 1 is not better than a 10. A 10 is not better than a 1. It's just where you fall on that scale for that particular trait. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you. So when you look at the results of the assessment, keep that in mind, how it's being served up. Okay. The other point I want to make too is that you're going to get three reports. They're going to be 2 written reports and a summary graph. Okay, let me show that. So the summary graph looks like this. Okay, so you can see the 3 areas that we're talking about, right? And you can see that scale 1 to 10 where the results are. Okay, so it's kind of an extreme case. We rarely see 8s, but I figured you'd rather see a student that scored an 8 than one that scored a 1. So I selected that. Anyway, better example, but you'll get a summary graph, but it's very important to look at the narrative explanation in the written reports. Okay. And I can't stress that enough, because just looking at the numbers don't tell you a whole lot. What you need to do is look at let me move this out of the way here. When you get the written reports, for example, thinking style. Okay. There's a narrative explanation of what those numbers mean. Okay, it's really important to read the narrative, because this is really where it tells you what is going on. Okay, it's much more informative and substantive than simply looking at the numbers. Okay, all right, so we're going to use the graph, some summary graph, sort of to explain what's going on. I think it's rather than, and I may jump back and forth just to give you an example of what this looks like. All right. So learning index, which we described earlier. All right. So there's a verbal skill piece. Again, this is more of the vocabulary, word usage piece of verbal reasoning. That's comprehension. Understanding what you're reading and be able to answer questions. Numerical ability, that's calculation. And then numeric reasoning, that's those word problems. 2 cars started from point A, one was going 50, the other was going 60, that sort of thing. So these things come together to create the overall learning index. All right. All right, so in this case, this student would have no problem doing the majority of work that's out there. So really in the case of this student, what the appropriate job would not be driven by, the learning index, but more by, personality and interests. All right. Okay. If you've got any questions, we'll open it up after I get kind of through the different pieces. Sorry. Still pollen and stuff is driving me crazy. All right. Energy. All right. Let's talk about personality. Here are the 9 personality traits. I'm going to describe for you the end, the end pieces of the scale. So, and then you can kind of get an idea of, what the middle might look like. But again, these are explained in the report. All right, so here, for example, sociability. All right, there's the explanation of what the numbers mean, right, which is much more telling than simply looking at a number of 3. What does that mean in sociability? Well, not really social, but there's more to it than that. So you really need to read again the narrative. So energy level, what are we measuring? All right, let's go back to the written piece. Energy level, it's how fast you like to work, right? So on the high end, you thrive on chaos, all right? You love things moving fast. You like to work at a fast pace. Think of an emergency room, you're in charge, and 4 ambulances just showed up from a multi-car accident, right? That's on the high end. The low end, much more methodical, thoughtful. You want to take time to process information, take your time doing the work. Not that you won't get it done, but it's, you don't like high pressure, much more laid back environment. That's energy level. Assertiveness. Okay. This is the leadership piece, right? But this is not whether you can lead, it's whether you want to lead or need to lead. Okay. There's a difference in terms of personality, right? We're talking about on the high end, the personality that the person has to be in charge no matter what's going on, right? They have to, they just the demand that they, take over and tell people what to do. That's on the high end. Low end, rather just do your work, be part of the team. You don't need, the limelight. Rather have somebody else out front making the decisions and taking the kudos and the hits. That's assertiveness. All right. Sociability. This is the people piece. Pretty simple. If you're on the high end of the spectrum, you got to have people around you all the time. You would not be happy working in a cubicle by yourself. You get energy from others. You love collaboration and teamwork and sharing ideas and all of that. On the low end, you would rather be in the lab talking to the rats. Okay. So, right? Sociability, manageability. You follow the rules. You accept supervision, right? On the high end, you do what you're told when you're told, how you're told. On the low end, you're a rebel, basically. Rules don't mean anything to you. If you don't like the rules, you make your own and that sort of thing. All right. Okay. Attitude. This is the glass half empty, half full, right? About situation, but also about authority and people. So on the high end, world is a wonderful place. You see it through rose-colored glasses, as they say. The boss is the best person in the world. You trust everybody. Okay, that's on the high end. On the low end, you're very skeptical. The boss is out to get me. This never work out. We shouldn't try that change because it just, it's doomed to failure and like that. So, or somewhere in between. So it gets you the idea of the extremes. Decisiveness. All right, how quickly do you make a decision? All right, given the information in front of you. So I use this kind of a shooting range analogy here. On the high end, it's ready, fire, aim. Right. On the low end, it's ready, aim, 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 aim. You may eventually get around to firing, but it's almost like paralysis through analysis kind of thing on the low end. On the high end, it's you're firing from the hip. You don't even stop to think things through. A lot of times, you just make that fast, quick decision. All right, accommodating. How far are you willing to go out of your way to make people happy? Okay, so on the high end, you put yourself in harm's way a lot of times if it means that other people are going to be happy. You've heard the term being a doormat. That's the high end. On the low end, you're the person walking on the doormat. Okay, your way or the highway, or where are you in the middle? Independence. All right. This is not personal independence. This is how you like to work. So on the high end, you like to be given a job or a project, left alone to do it. You'll figure it out, and then you'll ask for feedback. On the low end, you want step-by-step instructions. Everybody needs to know what their job is. You want continued affirmation from leadership that things are going according to plan. Another way to look at this is, it's the person on the high end goes to the store and buys something that has to be put together. They come home, throw it on the floor. The instructions go in the corner. They put it together and they get through. There's 4 pieces left over. They don't know where they go, right? That's on the high end. The low end, person brings the stuff home. They lays it all out. They inventory the parts 3 times, read the instructions 4 times before they even start the project, right? So you get the idea. Okay. Objective judgment. All right, we saw how fast you make a decision. How do you make a decision? So objective judgment on the high end of the spectrum, complete logic, right? Information, database, decision making. On the low end, it's intuitive, emotion driven, and like that. Okay, so we're somewhere in the middle. Again, very important to read the bullets explanation because there's more involved, and I'm just giving you kind of the high level. So really, read what the reports are telling you. All right. Any questions at this point from anyone before we move on? All right. So we've seen thinking style and we've seen personality. All right, interests. All right, the third bucket that makes up the personality. All right, so here are the six interest areas that they consider. So if you're a person who is interested in enterprising activities, you like persuading others, presenting ideas, and sort of the sales piece, the business piece, right? Entrepreneurial piece. Financial administrative doesn't mean that you're selling stocks and bonds. It means you like organizing information and business procedures. People service, just like it sounds, whatever you do, you want it to have a positive impact on your community. Technical, that's your scientific activities, technical data, research. Mechanical, hands-on. You like using tools, you like equipment. You're a builder. Engineers are often mechanical. Could be medical equipment. Could be computer equipment, but you're a builder. Creative doesn't mean you're putting paint on canvas, but artists are often creative. They don't have to be. Creative in this sense is intuitive or innovative thinking. Okay, you present it with a problem or a project, you think in an innovative way, always looking for the better mousetrap, so to speak. Okay, so the reports will tell you at the end. Go back to the sample summary graph. Okay, so the personality traits are listed there, and then it'll give you the lineup. Okay, and again, the first one is the most important. It's the biggest driver. In this case, mechanical was the biggest driver here, and creative, and then enterprise. Okay, so again, the report will give you a narrative explanation of the results. Okay, mechanical, creative, enterprising. All right, so we've seen the three things come together to make up the profile. All right, I'm going to stop again. Any questions? Everybody still with me? Everybody's good? Okay. Let's move on to the jobs then. All right, so we've got the profile. Now we're going to display a battery of jobs that are appropriate for that profile. But before we do that, I want to talk to you a minute about the reports that you're going to get. You're going to get, as you saw the summary graph, you've been seeing one of the written reports. You're going to get two written reports, and they're going to be exactly the same, and they are, with the exception of the jobs at the end. The one report, when at the end of this assessment, the student is asked to pick 3 out of these 16 job categories. All right, these are the 16 job categories that our government uses, school systems use, and that sort of thing. But anyway, they're asked to pick 3 of these categories to see what job matches there are under those categories. So the first report you're going to get will show the categories that the student picked and the job matches under that category. All right. When I get the results, I go in and I unmark those boxes and I run the profile across all 16 categories. All right. So why do I do that? All right, I'm going to show you why. All right, so this is a hypothetical situation. You notice this is a summary graph, okay? But what they do is for each job, they go in and they code each line item. And then the process is putting the profile of the student on top of the profile for the job. So in this case, Sally Sample is the student, widget vendor is the hypothetical job. And so they're telling me that for learning index, one must score a 5, 6, or 7 to be a good widget vendor, right? So Sally was right there in the middle of 6. Okay, she had a couple of outliers here, 3 in verbal skills, 7 in numerical reason, but overall 82% match for thinking style. Not bad. Behaviorally, not a good match, only 54%, right? So Sally would not be a happy widget vendor. Okay. And then they do the same thing with interests, 71% match. So all 3 together in the formula, they determined that a widget vendor is a 69% match for Sally Sample's profile. Okay, so a couple points. One is they draw the line at 75%. So this would not show up in Sally's array of jobs. And any job that shows up on the reports that you receive, you know that it's a 75% or better match. Okay. However, we still have a 25% spread, right, between a 75% match and a 100% match. Okay. So when we look at the profile under one job category, there may be 20 jobs show up because of that spread. But when we look at the profile across all 16, that 20 may be reduced to 5 because there's better matches in other categories. Okay, hope that it makes sense to everybody. That's why you get the second report. All right. So for me, I mean, not that you couldn't do anything that's in that first report because of that, because 25%, 75% match is pretty dang good. But to me, the second report that shows your best matches across all 16 categories is much more telling, because those are your best matches, no matter what industry or category that you're looking at. All right. So let's take a look. All right, so this is, this is the report. So in this case, the student picked arts, AV, tech, health, and marketing. So you come down here and they'll show you, okay, here are all the matches for arts, AV, tech. All right, then, pretty good, that must be a pretty good category for her. Health science was the other one. So she's obviously, with her academic acumen, whatever, she's probably could do pretty much anything in the medical field, as demonstrated by the list of jobs displayed, pretty much anything. And then marketing, again, that list. Okay, so that's what that looks like. And then on the other report, I call that the blue report because the jobs are shaded in blue. And the other report that I run is shaded in green, so I call it the green report. But this is the one. So the this number on the side over here corresponds to the category. So agricultural engineer is under STEM, right? So you get the idea. So these are, you'll see jobs in the blue report show up here, which means that they're top matches in that category. Okay. So all right, so what I want to show you now is how, let's find one that's probably good. Let's see, how about, let's see what design and engineer looks like for us. Maybe that'll be a good one. If not, we'll find another one. But anyway, so when you get these reports, they're going to be PDFs, they're going to be live links. Okay, I'm going to have to stop the share and share again. So I just went out to the internet. So give me just a second. All right, so when you click on that link, it's going to take you out to the ONET, which is a really big website of information about jobs and careers. So design and engineer falls under the heading of mechanical engineers. You can see it's down here. It's one of the job titles you might hold. Being a mechanical engineer, it describes what it is to be a mechanical engineer. And then we get into the weeds of what we have to do each day to do the job, right? And you can even determine, whether it's core or supplemental, that sort of thing. In terms of tasks, what technology you have to be able to use to do the work and be competitive, your work activities, just a lot of information about day in the life of kind of stuff. What does it really mean on an ongoing basis to be a mechanical engineer? Job zone 4, now we're talking about education and training. Okay, there's 5 job zones. So this is job zone 4. So down here, we should be able to see right here. Yeah. So down here, it shows you the people being a mechanical engineering work. 83% have a bachelor's degree. 7% only have an associate's degree. So some people worked their way up, obviously, but with certifications and that sort of thing. But 83% have a bachelor's degree. So tells you that to be competitive, you probably need to get a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, right? So it just gives you an idea of the educational goals that you need to set for yourself. And then on down here, so that provides information so the student can determine whether it makes sense to them. Does this work make sense to me? Can I get out of bed every morning, put my feet on the ground, go off to work, be happy doing this kind of work? Does it make it? Can I get my heart and mind around that work? The passion piece. But we want to combine passion with viability. Okay, it's not enough just to be passionate about something, because again, it's back to our practical approach to this whole thing. It needs to be viable as well. It needs to pay the bills, right? We want our student, when they leave college, to have a job where they could be on their own, have their own place, and pay their own bills, right? We don't want them to. We want them to come home as to visit, certainly, but not to live, not to be a tenant. So that's why it's important that we put passion and viability together. So this provides that as well. So we can look at information about. You can look at any state you want. We'll see if, and in some cases, they even have city information. So let's see what it gives us here. If I lucked out. Oh, I did. Okay. So, all right. So here we can compare Richmond's salary range to Virginia to the United States. Okay. So you can ask yourself, I have to get a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. That investment, I'm going to start out around 60,000. Does that make sense? Okay. Is that viable? Certainly. And it can tell you where you might top out at if you get to the top of your profession. Not bad here in Virginia. In fact, it exceeds the national average. All right. So that's that piece. So yeah, I think being a mechanical engineer makes sense. All right. What about, where is it headed? Where is that? Is it growing, declining? Well, let's see. It's in Virginia, it's growing 5% year over year. Nationally, 7%. Not bad. Not huge, but it's not bad. 590 jobs each year available in Virginia that you'd be competing for. Okay. Is that good? 20,000 nationally. All right. Well, yeah, that's a pretty good amount of jobs, but again, it's not huge. So maybe you got to look, when you start looking for work, you may end up in North Carolina or Pennsylvania or something, because you have to look out, depending on the size of the job openings, the number of job openings you may have to consider. But that gives you an idea of the viability of the work that you're pursuing. Okay. That's what this is all about. So combining the information that is on the ONET really gives us a better understanding of the work and the potential payout of our investment. And so we can make a better decision about direction. And once we know that, obviously being a mechanical engineer, what do we need to have in a college? We need to have an engineering program that has a mechanical engineering program, right? That makes sense. So we can use that to start looking for colleges that provide that program. So that's what this is all about. Again, these reports will be sent to the students as soon as I get the results from them. And I said the links will be live from the PDFs to the ONET. And, I encourage the students, as they have, time over the summer, whatever, start that research, start that exploration and discovery. Take a look at the jobs, find, 3 or 4 that make sense, in terms of what the work is and what the payout is and what the future is for those jobs. Write the information down. It makes, it's much more effective if we write stuff down. So, make notes, and then we'll, revisit this with everyone in the fall. If you have any questions, obviously you can, contact us, through Jason, Mr. Beasley, and we can, set up a time if you want to, delve into your individual reports with us privately. I'd be happy to do that. We can make an appointment to do that with you. So that's available through our program. So please take advantage of that. All right. So that's what I wanted to share with everyone this evening. Is there any questions at this point?
You said that you gave them the link and it's just a matter of, is there a deadline or is it just when they get
They
to it?
have, yeah, well, they have, I think to the end of June to get it completed. I would, you know, I was hoping that they'd have it done by tonight so that they would have the reports in front of them to look at while we were going through this. But again, you know, we will go over it with them again in the fall. And like I said, I'd be happy to meet individually if you want to.
And does the report generate automatically or is it sent to them or to us or?
No, it comes to us and we download them and then email them. But when come fall, when we put the students on this admissions management platform, those reports will be accessible through their portal.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to let everybody get on with their evening. I appreciate your attention. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out. We're always available. Love to speak with you. Thank you very much.